Hello fellow collectors, and welcome to another challenge video. This challenge comes from Chris at CRA Diecast, and the theme is to show your rally or race cars. And if you've been watching my channel at all, you know that I love race cars, so I was very excited to see this challenge, and of course had to jump in and try to do it myself. So I'm here. I have Enzo here to supervise things, but we need to keep it quiet because there aren't a whole lot of Ferraris in my selections. It turns out I don't have very many Ferrari race cars, so Enzo's going to be a little bit disappointed, but he can keep an eye on the proceedings anyways. And to start with, I wanted to show off these Mini GT Mercedes. I've shown versions of these various times, but the four here are from a set that Mini GT put out, reproducing the liveries for four cars that raced at Macau, the Macau DTM race in 1992. And since Mini GT, put out all four of these cars, you might think that, that was a very dramatic victory for Mercedes, and they finished, 1, 2, 3, 4, or something along those lines, and that would justify, putting out four cars with very similar liveries on them. And the truth is far from that in reality, and that's thanks to this guy. And this is another Mini GT, this Bmw M3 E30, and driven by Emmanuel Pirro, who is the actual winner of the race. And in fact, the race was actually a 1, 2, 3, 4 BMW, all three of the factory BMWs, and the highest placed Mercedes was actually fourth. And of the four Mercedes that raced, only one of them actually finished. So the first three, the 8, 9, and 10 cars, which were the factory cars, all crashed out, and the number 11 car finished fourth, which, as far as I know, this was a privateer car. And this one, the livery is has the most variation in it. The factory cars only vary in small details in the color. This stripe color here and under the headlights is different on each of the cars. Or this one's yellow, this one's orange, or this one's red and this one's orange. But this one has these differing color bumpers, and this graphic here is different as well. But yeah, it's kind of surprising that Mini GT chose to put these cars out as this set, because they did not have a particularly successful race, but they're still awesome. I just absolutely love this Mercedes 190E from Mercedes, and all the different variations that they've put out of it. Just a fantastic model. And then these are, of course, sporting the Berlin 2000 livery, which was, at the time, Berlin was trying to win the year 2000 Olympics, and this was part of their campaign to, get to win that contest, and ultimately they didn't. So the livery contains a bunch of signatures of people who were supporting their bid for the 2000 Olympics. But I love these cars, so any opportunity I have to show them, I will take advantage of that. And this BMW, this is actually, I pulled this out of the package before making this video for the first time, so it's a new addition to my official collection. So this challenge was about rally cars and race cars. So let's take a look at a few rally cars. First one is the Alpene A110. This particular model is a Norrev. And this model is very significant to me because it really represents what I love most about collecting diecast cars. Because this is a car that I was completely unfamiliar with. Even though I love racing and I've always followed racing, rally hasn't really been the thing that I focused the most on. So this was a very unfamiliar car to me. But I learned of it from this car, which is a Hot Wheels. And this is their version of the modern A110, specifically the A110 Cup. And when I found this car originally, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was just a cheap, you know, two-door coupe, low-end car. But in reality, the A110 is a mid-engine sports car, more akin to a Porsche 911 than, or maybe a Cayman or something along those lines, than a an inexpensive compact car, which is what I thought it was originally. But through learning about this car, it led me to the original version, and this Norev model was the first diecast car that I actually ordered internationally, because there is no way to find one of these in the US that I know of. So I had to order this from Germany because I fell in love with the car, and I just think it's such an incredibly cool car. And as I've learned more about it, I just fall more and more in love with it. So that's what I love about diecast collecting. I've learned so much about so many cars that I knew very little about, and realistically, I still don't know a whole lot about most of them. But it's fun, and I love that aspect of it. So next up, from the same era as the A110, we have a BMW 2002. This is a Schuco and Tarmac Works collaboration project for a rally livery on a nice BMW 2002. A very cool car. Then moving to the next generation, or a little bit down the road in generations for rally cars, we have the Lancia Stratos, which was designed, purpose-built rally car. Very, very small, very compact, short wheelbase, and absolutely fantastic rally car in this famous Alitalia livery. This is a Tomica premium car. Then next up, from Hot Wheels, we have the Audi, I'm going to space on the name, Audi Quattro, 84 Audi Sport Quattro rally car. This is from the Hot Wheels Car Culture Thrill Climbers set. Then we have the Lancia 037 in Gulf livery. This is from the Team Transport set. There was also a Lancia 037 in this Thrill Climbers set, but I didn't pull that one out. I just pulled this one out. So I thought it was a little more interesting. Then, in a more modern rally generation, we have the Polo R. This is from Majorette. This is a Majorette racing cars series car. So this is one of the basic Majorettes, which means has plastic wheels, plastic tires, no interior on this one. But still, it's a very cool casting. The casting itself is very nice, and I love these. So I have this one in a basic kind of generic Polo R livery, and then the more realistic Red Bull livery that the Polo WRC cars ran in actual competition. And then also from Majorette, we have the Hyundai. This is the I20 WRC, and this is from the WRC edition of Majorette, and this is what Majorette calls a deluxe car, which means that it has an interior, it has suspension, it has rubber tires and two-piece wheels, and overall it's just a much higher quality model. So this is a very cool racing model. I love that one. And then to make the transition from rally racing back to circuit racing, we have the Launcia Group 5 car. So this is a Stratos, but with an extended aero package to try to make it into a suitable road racer. And this car was heavily modified. The engine was heavily modified, and it was pumped up, had turbocharged engine, pumped up to 550 horsepower, and it was not a particularly successful race car, but it certainly has a very unique design. Apparently they were quite prone to catching on fire, And so Lancia did not run these for very long. They decided that it just wasn't a very good car to work with. So we'll put him over here with his rally brethren. And then continuing circuit racers, we have from Auto World the Ford GT40 in a Gulf-inspired livery. This is not an actual Gulf livery. There's no Gulf logos or anything on this car, but it is clearly a Gulf-inspired livery. Auto World does a very good version of the GT40, and this one is a very, very cool one. And then also from Auto World, the number 2 car. This was actually the Le Mans winner in, I believe it was 1968. I could be wrong. Yeah, hopefully I'm not wrong. But anyway, this is the dirty version, which is very cool. And this is probably my favorite of the GT40s that Auto World has put out. It's very cool. And then following on from the GT40, the car that took the reins after the GT40s ended their domination is the Porsche 917, and this was a absolute monster of a car when it raced at Le Mans, and it won the race for several years running in the early 1970s. And this is a Hot Wheels from what series was? Oh, this was from one of the premium collector sets or diorama sets, and it's not a great representation of the 917, but the 917 is such a classic car, it has to be included here. Next up, this is a Tomica Premium. This is a Nissan Skyline with a super silhouette style of race car that has been the influence on the whole Zuku, however you say that, style of cars that are so popular in Japan. And these were just incredible cars as well. So this was a Tomica Premium Skyline Turbo Super Silhouette. And let's see, I guess we'll get into modern GT3 cars. So this is the Nissan Gtr Gt3, and this one is from, I think this is a Sparky. It doesn't say on the bottom. I'm pretty sure this is a Sparky. I've always been a little bit unclear on this particular one, whether it was a Sparky or whether it was a Mini GT, but I think it's a Sparky. But anyway, this is a very cool car. Nice Motul livery. And then another GT3. This is a Mercedes AMG GT3 with a Tsingtao livery on it. This is a Sparky. I know that one. And this is just an incredible racing livery. When I saw this, I was like, oh man, I've got to have that, even though I overpaid for it a little bit. It's awesome. And then from Mini GT, this is this one is actually a Honda NSX, because this one raced in Europe in the Blancpain GT3 series. And so when these cars race in Europe, they're called Hondas. When they race in the United States, they're called Acuras. And so we have two Acuras. I've shown these before, but these liveries are just so awesome that I have to show them again. You have the Statue of Liberty livery on the 93 car, and then the Uncle Sam livery on the 86 car. And these liveries were run at a Watkins Glen race a few years ago. It was beautiful liveries. Mini GTs does some fantastic racing liveries. Then next up, another Sparky. This is a Porsche 911 RSR. This is the GTE version of the car. So Sparky has put out the Porsche as the GTE version, and then as a couple different iterations of the GT3 version. So the car itself will superficially looks very similar, but there's when you put them side by side, there's some significant differences. Maybe in another video sometime I will do that. So I have quite a few of those. And then from another Sparky, this is a Toyota TS050 Lmp1 car. That this is the number 7 car. So this has finished second until this year. I think it's number 7 car won Le Mans this year, but that would not have been this spec. Actually, it would have been the hypercar version, but I have not yet taken the number 8 car, which is the Le Mans winner. I haven't taken that out of the package yet, so I'm showing off the number 7. But these cars. When I first saw this generation of LMP1 cars, I was like, oh my gosh, what in the world are they doing? they are just monsters. They're kind of hideous looking, but as I've gotten familiar with them, I've grown to really appreciate them for what they are, which is just a heavily optimized race car. And these things are just fantastic turbo hybrids, and just incredible cars. Next up, we have some open wheel cars. Actually, no, hold on, I have a few more Le Mans cars, and better show this one before Enzo loses his mind, because he's sitting there surrounded by a BMW, a Mercedes, and some Volkswagens. So this is a Ferrari 333 P from Hot Wheels, and Enzo's going to lose his mind because this car has flames on it. How do you think Enzo Ferrari would feel about having flames on a Ferrari? I just have a feeling he wouldn't like that, but he's going to have to sit next to this. And then this is a Hot Wheels. It's not the best model in the world, but this is a Mazda 787B, and these things had a rotary engine in them, and the sound of these things, these ran at Le Mans, and the sound of these things tearing down the Mulsanne Straight is, even just in recordings, is spine chilling. These things just sounded incredible, and at that time, these ran in the early 90s. The Mulsanne Straight did not have the chicanes in it like it does today, so they were hitting incredible top speeds, and running flat out for the entire length of the straight. Now the straight is broken up with with 2 chicanes, which slows down the car significantly, and it really takes away the some of the the excitement of what Le Mans used to have. But it's all done for safety. So this is this basic blue and white Mazda livery, and then this I just pulled out a few others. I'll just show these really quickly. This Gran Turismo livery, and then the I20 livery from the Team Transport series Hot Wheels. And then now we'll switch to open wheel cars. So there aren't a whole lot of open wheel cars available in 1/64 scale, and those that are available were made quite a while ago, and are somewhat difficult to get, especially in the US. This is an Aoshima Williams. This particular one is the FW11B, and so these I got from I ordered them from Japan, and I bought a complete set of these. They come in blind boxes, so these were kind of sold in convenience markets in Japan originally, and you would buy the box and not know which car came in it. But if you buy a whole case, you'll get one of each car. So I bought a whole case from Japan, and so that I could make sure that I got every one of the cars that was available. And so these are pretty decent little models for Formula One cars. So this was the the FW11B. This one is the FW15C, and this is running there were two versions of the 15C in the set, and this one is running the kind of wing that they use in Monaco, because they want additional downforce in Monaco, so it's a triple element rear wing. So it has this front extension on it, and then the two elements here and here. So the Monaco track is an incredibly tight track, and in reality, modern F1 cars still run there because it's a legendary track in Formula One. But the track itself is really poorly suited to Formula One cars. It's far too narrow and too tight and twisty for modern Formula One cars, which have gotten quite a bit larger over time. And so the Monaco race often turns out to be one of the most boring races on the calendar, because it's nearly impossible for Formula One cars to pass each other on that track anymore. So there's a lot of people who would really like for Formula One to stop running at Monaco, but it's such a huge event on the Formula One calendar that will probably never happen. So one more of these Aoshima Formula One cars. This is the FW18 in the Renault racing livery. So these earlier cars had Honda power, and then Williams switched to Renault power with these cars. So it's very interesting to see, when you start to compare the cars, the design evolution of the cars. And because to a lot of people, Formula One cars all look kind of the same, especially now when you go and look at modern Formula One cars. There's if you don't really know your stuff, they do kind of all look similar, and they have for a while. But when you really look at the details, there's quite a few differences. You have to look at the shape of the body, the wings, shape of the wings, and then you have very clear differences in this area here. So these are very cool. I'm very glad to have them, even though they were fairly expensive. And then from Greenlight, we have Indy Cars, and this is the Indy car that Fernando Alonso ran a few years ago. And Fernando Alonso, if you're not familiar, he's a two-time world champion in Formula One, and very famous driver. And this Indy car is in the spec that they would run for the Indianapolis 500. So, Indy cars run both on ovals and regular road and street courses. And so when they run on an oval like Indy, they run with a very minimal aero package. So you have very small wings on the front and the back, so that they have higher top speeds, because they don't need to carry tremendous speed through tight corners. Obviously, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a banked, high-speed, super high-speed oval track, and so these cars hit very high top speeds on that track. So Greenlight still puts these out. They're putting out replicas of all of the Indy cars. And I have not yet picked up any of the newer ones. I've been intending to, but just haven't gotten around to it. And then one last one that is typically considered an open wheel car, but it's a little questionable on whether it's truly open wheel or not. As you can see, the wheels are kind of enclosed. But this is a Formula E Gen 2 car. And Formula E is a very controversial series because these are electric cars, and a lot of people in motorsports don't really like electric cars. They don't have the sound, because so much of the experience of going to a race is that visceral experience that you get from the sound and the percussive waves that come off of the cars, especially if you go to something like a drag race and go see it like a Top Fuel dragster. Oh my, when those things go by, it's something. So these electric cars just kind of whine as they drive around. They have to run on special, shorter versions of tracks, because they have to have lots of hard braking zones, because they do regenerative braking to recharge their batteries and extend their range. And then they're having to do a lot of lift and coast and things along those lines to preserve energy to make sure that they make it to the end. Because if they run flat out for the entire race, they won't make it to the end. So there's, you know, a lot of people don't like the series, but it's actually very competitive series, and you know, you get different winners every race. Whereas in other forms like Formula One, until this season, this has been a great year for Formula One, but prior years, Formula One was at times incredibly boring races. It's just super predictable, and you know, and the cars have a hard time following. They have a hard time passing, and but in Formula E, they don't have those problems. So it's been a very competitive series, and I've actually enjoyed watching Formula E races, and it seems to be growing in popularity. So this is a Majorette. This came out of a 5-pack, Majorette Formula E 5-pack. So it came, you know, it's five identical castings, each with different liveries, and this one is Nissan. So you know, manufacturers have entered Formula E now. It's a spec car. They all run the same car, but the powertrain is you know, is manufacturer specific. So this is a Nissan powertrain. All right, only a few more, I promise. So next up is the Trans Am series. This is one of my favorite racing series. It was from the, you know, it ran in the late 60s. It still technically runs today, but it doesn't have the same, I don't know, cachet that it had in the 60s. There's no major manufacturer support in current Trans Am racing. But in the 60s, you know, this was the muscle car era, so there was big time manufacturer support. And so this one was a, you know, from Mercury they ran the Cougar, and this is very famous red and silver Cougars that were run. And this particular one is a Parnelli Jones, and this is from Greenlight, and this is it came as is from Acme, which is, you know, Greenlight partners with Acme, and they put this out. It was like kind of like a team transport set, which came with a truck and this very cool version of the Mercury Cougar in this iconic racing livery. I love this car. It's very cool. Then next up, another iconic and very famous Trans Am car, the Seneca Camaro. It's driven by Mark Donahue. And this is a Johnny Lightning. This came in like some kind of diorama set, which had this little backdrop thing that I think it was like a gas station, because it's Seneca. So it was like a Seneca gas station, and you can get this car. It was super expensive, but I had to have this car. So I just, you know, I love Trans Am cars, so this is very cool. And then again from Greenlight and Acme, there are two of these. These are Plymouth Barracudas Trans Am, and you had the number 42 car and the number 48 car, and one of these is driven by Dan Gurney. Number 48 is Dan Gurney, and this one I forget the driver. It's on here, but it's a little hard to read. I cannot read that. Anyway, these are beautiful. Love these cars. I wish they would put out more of these, or, you know, of this type of car. And Greenlight can do a really great job when they really want to. So we have the different hood liveries. They're fairly similar overall, but yeah, oops, so dropped them on a Honda here. It's not good, but all right. Well, those are my selections. There's quite a few of them. This, you know, we're hitting 30 minutes on this video, so if you stuck around, I definitely appreciate it. And that's all I have for today. And so thank you for watching. You know, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and you know, if you know, comment with what you think is the most interesting car here, and or set of cars. And I will talk to you next time.